You see, you got to understand that when we were under colonization, the companies that ran the economies of all African countries were companies that belonged to the colonizer. If a country was colonized by the British, the majority of the companies that controlled the economies of those countries were British. If you were colonized by the Germans, German companies. If you were colonized by the French, French companies, and so forth. They still continue to control the economies of their former colonies. To this day, I can live a life in this country like I live in America, but we don't own it. And it doesn't take much to invest in Africa. There's so many low-hanging opportunities, and our people are being told, don't go to Africa. You went to Bordeaux.
Yep.
Would you think you are in Zimbabwe?
No.
White people everywhere. The brainwashing is so deep that we have to be in the present. We have to be consciously aware of what we are doing and constantly check ourselves. Why do we go into a church and see a white Jesus Christ?
No.
We all know Jesus Christ was a black man. That's a fact. Back to line number 1. You are black and you're ugly. It's everywhere. Why are we still using colonial textbooks? They used the books, the educational system, to brainwash us. It's going to take the educational system to undo the damage. If you don't accept that you're suffering from this ailment, how do you begin to heal? It's like me as a doctor. I can't help you as a doctor if you don't realize you're sick and you come to me.
Hello guys, are African diaspora really willing to come and build Africa? And do you think that the African leaders lack consciousness? And what is the next move, and why is Africa not developing? So in this video, where Wodemaya was interviewing Dr. Arikana, is going to explain to us what is really happening here in Africa. I hope you'll stay tuned up to the end of the video.
White supremacy and the fact that we were being called black and they're calling themselves white, I call that lie number 1. It is just such a blatant lie. And yet, for centuries, we have failed to denounce the lie. What is wrong with us? That lie has such profound effects, subliminal messaging all around. We just know that we are inferior. We just know that we are not as beautiful as they are. One other thing that was done after the Berlin Conference is putting in place a system to make the Africans believe that everything African was bad and everything European was better. We suffer from the legacy of colonialism. We automatically feel inferior when faced with our Caucasian brothers and sisters. That is something that we as individuals need to deal with. Somehow, we are programmed to just take second place. It's like one of those cases where the front door is open, but we feel more comfortable going through the back door. Those kind of things, we do them without thinking. We are automatically just taking second place when we could take first place. In the grocery store, if a white person is behind it, go ahead. The brainwashing is so deep that we have to be in the present. We have to be consciously aware of what we are doing and constantly check ourselves. We did not end up of this mindset overnight. It's going to take a lot of undoing over time. And that means one has to be conscious. One has to accept the fact that they're suffering from the legacy of slavery and the legacy of colonization. If you don't accept that you're suffering from this ailment, how do you begin to heal? It's like me as a doctor. I can't help you as a doctor if you don't realize you're sick and you come to me. So first is acceptance that we are suffering from these two conditions. And not only are we suffering from them, we are in the intensive care.
I think a lot of Africans feel so inferior because they don't know their history.
They don't know their history, but also they've just been told. Back to line number 1. You are black and you're ugly. It's everywhere. So it's not even they don't know. They're just automatically, they're living in a world that just says you are second class. You are inferior, and we have never really done anything to denounce that lie. Subliminal messaging all around.
If you don't know your history, where we are sitting right now, this is a replica of Great Zimbabwe. And Great Zimbabwe was built by our ancestors, right?
Correct.
And you see, I think she put mortar, but our ancestors never used mortar. This alone should make you feel superior. Because even they were doing research trying to say that no, it was not done by Africans. So this is how Africans need to know that you need to travel more within Africa just to discover yourself, just to know that you are not what they tell you that you are. When I went to Great Zimbabwe, I felt so proud as an African.
But you know what though? We could start with our history books. Why are we still using colonial textbooks in 2022? You see what I'm saying? They used the books, the educational system, to brainwash us. It's going to take the educational system to undo the damage. But I'll tell you, the place where they need to really take responsibility is religion. It is religion that was used to brainwash the African. And it's going to take religion to also undo it. Why do we go into a church and see a white Jesus Christ?
No.
We all know Jesus Christ was a black man. That's a fact. In fact, I like to say Jesus Christ was an African diaspora. Born in the Middle East, grew up in Egypt. That's the definition of an African diaspora. I mean, let's face it.
What is the main function of the ADDI?
To mobilize African diaspora to participate in the development of Africa. There are more Ghanaian doctors in New York City than in the entire country of Ghana. There are more Nigerian doctors in LA than in the entire country of Nigeria. So let's be serious here. What Africa needs is capacity, capacity, capacity. And that capacity is in the diaspora. So it behooves us to bring the diaspora together. Let them understand what is really going on in our Africa. Diaspora are not going home. Diaspora are angry about Africa because they are not understanding the root cause of why Africa is where it is today. They think getting rid of a president will take care of the problem. Far from it. That president is just going to be replaced by another one. Where do you go if you want to go to the 6th region?
I thought they had an office in Ghana.
Huh? Where?
Okay, I've seen an office in Ghana, which it's ADDI. Not ADDI, but it's an office for the 6th region.
No. The 6th region has not been officially approved as a decision by the African heads of states. All they have done is to approve it and made it a part of the constitution. That's it.
I'm so confused because I went to the launch of the African diaspora flag though. So, I mean, I have to do more research about that then.
There are processes in which the African Union works. You are a smart man. You can look them up yourself. One person doesn't get up and decide they're going to do something without consulting the people.
What do you think it will happen to Africa if the African diaspora decide to invest more in Africa?
That is the only solution. What I tell the African diaspora is that we are the true gold. We are the true gold. You know, the reality is people don't realize, as we speak, there's not a single African country that has the capacity to build an airport, capacity to build a railway line. But collectively, as the continent, we have all the expertise we need. But each country is trying to look within its country, and when it cannot find the expertise, they go outside the continent, because we are not united. It will even be very difficult for them to find engineers next door, because we are not united. So my hope was that the AFCFTA would begin to put us together, bring us together in a way that access to professionals is easier. But that's not happening. So ADDI is saying we have expertise galore. Black people must understand what is really going on. Because what we are shown instead is, oh, look at those Africans killing each other. There are some serious games that have been played for far too long. And once we understand that, we can strategize as to how we can begin to bring the difference. And that change can only come if the African diaspora are united. And the Wakanda villages, as I call them, it is our organized way of saying, starting with one African diaspora center of excellence, it will be a new city, a developmental hub that we can then take from there. Every sector is developed. Take healthcare. How many doctors do we need in this region to take care of this many people? We pick up education, same thing. We pick up engineering. We pick up electricity. How many megawatts of power do we have in the region? How many do we need? Be it solar, be it wind, be it hydro, be it geothermal. I use the example of the airport in Atlanta. The busiest, probably most beautiful airport, most well-run airport. It was built by majority, over 50% black people. Mayor Maynard Jackson of Atlanta back then, when he was commissioning the airport, a lot of white businesses came in and they were putting in their proposals, and he realized there were no black companies. They said, well, where are the black companies? They said, we can't find them. So he pushed the papers back and said, hey, I'm not signing this until you find some black companies. So they had to go find them. So that's how black people ended up participating in building the Atlanta airport. Why aren't we getting them? They're still there in Atlanta. Why aren't we getting them to come and build airports in Africa? None of the airports are built by black people because we're not united. So ADDI is saying, let's have some way that we can all come together, we all speak with one voice, and we can all build together so we prevent being exploited. I was in Zambia and I saw one Turkish man with a big apartment complex that he built. Now how does a young man from Turkey decide, I'm going to go to Zambia and I'm going to make money? These units are 100% booked. Average rent is $3,500 to $5,000 a month. This Turkish man flies in, he has a manager, he's making money out of Africa. And I said to myself, why can't African diaspora do this? Other people are seeing what Africa has.
You don't think the diaspora complains a lot?
Yeah, we do.
But why do we complain about Chinese people coming in?
I know, when we are not
When
there.
you are not coming.
Yeah.
I think there's this thing I need to tell people, man. Wherever there are people complaining a lot, that's where the opportunity is.
Absolutely.
But yet, when Africans get so comfortable with life in the US, life in Canada, Europe, and they start saying that there's nothing in Africa, I think you've built a successful business in Africa.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a lot of people that have moved back. We need to look at the opportunity, because when you are in the diaspora and you come back, when you come, you see so much opportunity. And I think that, look, sometimes it's not about you working alone. It's about you partnering with somebody, right? Because you can't do it alone. There are businesses, there are young entrepreneurs here who just need investment, who just need somebody with your expertise. All you need is investment from somebody in the diaspora to come and partner. We need more partnership. That's how we're gonna grow.
But you know what, with ADDI, those who are members of ADDI, the conversations have changed. The conversations have changed. But those who are not yet aware, they complain. That's all they do. Somehow they expect change to come through osmosis. They want to complain from 10,000 miles away, and they want somebody to build an Africa that they want, that looks more like the West, so they can just waltz in. What they don't realize is it's happening. Africa is moving forward, except we don't own it. The outsiders are owning those nice grocery stores that you go in and they're well staffed with everything you want, hardware stores with everything you could ever think. I can live a life in this country like I live in America, but we don't own it.
Who owns Africa?
You see, you got to understand that when we were under colonization, the companies that ran the economies of all African countries were companies that belonged to the colonizer. If a country was colonized by the British, the majority of the companies that controlled the economies of those countries were British. If you were colonized by the Germans, German companies. If you were colonized by the French, French companies, and so forth. That, my brothers and sisters, they never give up. They still continue to control the economies of their former colonies to this day. But the opportunities are still there. There's still room, plenty of room for African diaspora to come in spite of the many years of exploitation and abuse the statistics are telling us that they've only exploited maybe 10% of Africa's natural resources. And every day we're discovering more and more African natural resources. So we are inheritors of an amazing, amazing continent with endless riches. If we can just wake up to realize that. And it doesn't take much to invest in Africa. There's so many low-hanging opportunities. And our people are being told, don't go to Africa. You went to Bordeaux.
Yep.
Would you think you are in Zimbabwe?
No.
White people everywhere. I was in Victoria Falls. Same thing. But Africans are being told, don't go to Zimbabwe. Don't go to Africa. No, they want to keep Africa to themselves. And we're stupid enough to listen to their narrative and believe in them. And then not only do they tell us, don't go to Africa, they want you to be the mouthpiece to bash Africa. No, I will never bash Africa. You know, I sat next to a lady in the plane. She was an American, and she said it flat out. She said, "I'll bash my U.S. when I'm within the U.S., but outside the U.S., I will never bash the U.S." That's what everybody else does. But internally, we talk as children.
But Africans don't do that.
We don't.
We're actually the ones that take the negative news to them.
To them, exactly. It's stupidity of the highest order.
And as soon as you start preaching positive about your own continent,
no.
You've been paid to say.
Yes, and you must be with the government. They're always against the ruling party. It's not about the government. It goes to how we are going to make decisions when we are faced with them. So yes, in some cases, we have not been good negotiators. We need to do better. We need to wake up as Africans and realize that we're just as good as anybody else. And when we come to negotiating and getting rid of those boundaries, the issues you're talking to, you're right. We should have addressed them. 55 years later since OAU, there are issues our Pan-African fathers spoke about in 1963 that we are yet to address. We are yet to attain that perfect African Union. Our solution to truly removing corruption is when Africa speaks with one voice as one continent. I am an American citizen, but I'm also a Zimbabwean citizen. An African American only has one citizenship. They also need a citizenship in an African country. That's how we equalize the playing field. So what were your plans and how are you intending to equalize this? And that's when this former president said, well, we did our part. We incorporated the 6th region into our constitution. And now it's up to you, diaspora, to organize yourselves. And we need a meeting, a representative sample of diaspora from every corner of the world. They must come. You must find a host country to host you, and you meet, you deliberate on what you want. If you tell us what you want, we'll be happy to approve it. But it cannot be just one small organization here. He even mentioned a couple of people, and he said, no, it has to be people from everywhere, every corner of the earth. He said, Ambassador, if you can call that meeting, I'll be happy to get my own president to host that event.
Yes, hello guys. One of the things that I've come to realize in this clip is that these organizations which are meant to support Africans, African countries in terms of constructions, in terms of anything that is supposed to unite Africans. Like for example, let's take about AU, African Union. Why did AU fire Dr. Arikana? The main reason I think is that because she was talking truth about what is really happening in those organizations, and even about the African puppets. Now you'll find that these are the things that are making Africa not to work. Like we need to continue having our leaders who will continue talking the truth and even protect the African interests. Now AU refused to get rid of the borders for free trade, and even to create one. This is also one of the things that has always happened. Like the African to African trade is really not happening. And even if it happens, there needs to be a lot of trust amongst the Africans. And most of the Africans have also believed that they need to purchase their items outside because they believe that these items are of high quality. Now, that was not even the main thing that I want to talk about here. Why do you think that the people of Africa have always been kept poor and exploited, interfered, being placed as a inferior, and even they have always been known as a victim of slaves? Like there's a time the president of the Western countries said that Africa is a shithole. And even there's a point here, there are some of the clips which were coming out, and they were saying that they are trying to, as much as possible, to keep Africa poor. So, is this that the reason why Africans have always been poor? Is it that the reason why they have always wanted to exploit Africa? Like, you'll find that there are a lot of industries which are manufacturing, there are a lot of minerals, but they are not being manufactured in Africa. Either way, they are being manufactured outside. Take a look at Nigeria, take a look at Burkina Faso, take a look at those Western countries. You'll find that up to date, they are still up to the French colonies. Now, there's a way that the government usually destroy these. Like you'll find that the government is destroyed. For example, let's look up Zimbabwe. Let's talk about Malawi, Dar es Salaam, and even South Africa. You'll find that these are the ideals of puppets, the leaders who are in those countries. You'll find that majority of them are pawns, and even the puppets of the Western. And that's why you'll find that they will keep on destroying us, keeping us, victimizing us as slaves, and so on and so on. And even recently, Kenya's joined the list. Now, the government and social structures which are entrenched and maintained in this victimhood, while leaders grovel for recognition, bribes, and destructive constructs. And those people who want to help are also killed, and those people who exploit and manipulate, they plunder and they lie to you, they are usually embraced. And that's why you have always been told that the moment you hear the Western praising your leaders or your president, this means that you are in a wrong direction. And the moment you see that they are going against your president direction, that means that you are going, the country is going in the right direction. And that's why I've always said that this systematic tags, it is meant to keep Africa poor. Now, what do I mean about the systematic tags? I want to talk about this, something that is called concerns, which is really, really lacking in African rulers. And to date, listen, the systematic tags where I'll be laboring about the black and white trickery game. So we all know that Africans have always been a victim, and even the black people have always been a victim. Now, we either have to lose the black and white man mentality, because none of them is a black, none of them is white. That's why I've always said that we need to remove this trickery game, that is systematic tags, because in the US you'll find that the black and white are meant to design or to serve the systematic tags, which is I think it is a way of promoting division, and even it is a way of also feeding racism. So it might sound like a cool and hearing thing, like you'll be called I'm black, I am white, but in real sense, this thing is an injustice, because instead of supporting this unity, it is supporting the forces of division, control, and demolish, and even as a source of the motive, which is always their target objectives. Now, beside it, you will find that ain't really about the skin color, because it is about who they set up is in the system. So nationality is the order of the day. Now that's all about the systematic tags. And to this you'll find that the black people have always been placed in an inferior form. And have also been victimized. And have also been placed as members of slavery. Remember, slavery happened long time ago. And they have always believed that slavery came from Africa, where they were sourcing their slavers from. And it is from this place that most of the people were spread out in different parts of the world. So I mean that also makes sense to you. Now the thing here is that why are Africans not waking up? Why are we still using the books or the Christianity? Like Dr. Arikana said, that we are still in a position where we are still in a victim mentality where we still believe that Jesus is white. And it is true. Have you ever come to our homes, even into our villages, you'll find that when you enter in those houses, the people who are hanged in those calendars or in those when you enter a house, you'll find a white Jesus being hanged in a house. So it is just I don't know what happened. Like, why were we washed? Why? So I'll just leave this video here, and I believe that you have also learned much in this video. So thank you for watching this video. My name is Golden Boy, and see you in another episode.